Hello, my name is Stacy Gray. I'm the Education Coordinator here at Walter B. Jacobs Memorial Nature Park, one of your Caddo Parish parks, and welcome to Nature Storytime. This month we're going to be talking about deer. We have deer that live here in northwest Louisiana, not reindeer like some of you might be thinking, but the white-tailed deer. So we're going to read a couple of stories about deer, learn a few things about them, and then we'll meet the live deer that lives here at the nature park. So our first story today is going to be all about deer. This book is by Jim Arnosky. This book is going to teach us all about deer in the world. Okay. Deer are beautiful and graceful animals. Their slender legs give them a delicate, almost fragile appearance, but deer are tougher than they look. They have to be strong to survive in the wild. Deer are the smallest members of the family known as Cervidae. There are several species of deer that live all around the world. Here in North America, we have 6 species. We have the white-tailed deer, the mule deer, the black-tailed deer, caribou, sometimes called reindeer. We have elk, and we have moose. When viewed from the front or back, a deer's body is long and narrow, and this shape and their coloration help them blend in the forest. That's known as camouflage. Deer are cloven-hoofed animals. Each hoof has 2 large toes, and deer hooves dig into the ground for sure footing. They are also sharp enough to stomp and slash an enemy. The most common sign that deer leave behind are their heart-shaped hoof prints. Have you ever seen deer tracks in the wild? A deer's 3 most developed senses are hearing, smell, and sight. A female deer is called a doe, and a male deer is called a buck. Only male deer, elk, and moose grow antlers. Both male and female caribou or reindeer grow antlers. And all antlers are grown and shed yearly. Antlers are not horns. Horns are permanent. They continue growing year after year through an animal's life. Cattle, sheep, goats, bison, antelope all grow horns. Antlers are temporary, and they're made of bone. They begin growing in the spring and drop off in the winter. A baby deer is called a fawn. Fawns are born in the spring or early summer. Twins are very common. And like all mammals, the fawn's first food is milk. Deer milk is very rich and fawns grow rapidly. And since her fawns are born odor-free, a mother deer keeps her distance except when nursing to avoid her own scent that would draw predators to them. After about 3 weeks, fawns will follow their mother everywhere. In the summer, look for tracks of does and fawns behind them pressed into the ground. All during summer, adult bucks live in small bands apart from the does and fawns. The does travel with their fawns, sometimes joining other does and fawns and forming a small herd. In every herd, one doe becomes dominant overall, and you can spot the lead doe in a herd. She's always on the alert, listening, smelling the air, and watching for any signs of danger. When the lead doe senses danger, she signals the herd by snorting loudly and stomping one hoof on the ground. If danger is near, the whole herd of deer will bolt away, leaping away at once. Now, the flashing of a white-tailed deer's tail serves as a flag for the fawns and other deer to follow. White's very visible in the woods. It's a very visible color. A deer's jaws and teeth are made for eating coarse vegetation. The bottom front teeth are sharp and point outward for nipping and pulling leaves and grasses. The large back teeth are made for mashing and grinding. Deer eat grasses, leaves, tender stems, soft green shoots, berries, nuts, and seeds. Pretty much anything. In winter, deer eat mostly browse, branch tips, small twigs, soft bark, and evergreen needles. Now, a deer is most vulnerable to predators when it is out in the open foraging for food. And to limit time in the open, deer gather food quickly with very little chewing. And the unchewed food is stored in the deer's rumen, the first compartment of the deer's four-part stomach. Later, the deer will bring up wads of that stored food for chewing. Ew. These wads are called cuds. And after each cud is chewed, it is then re-swallowed and slowly digested as it passes through the remaining 3 compartments of the deer's stomach. With a top speed of 36 miles per hour, a mature deer can outrun any predator. A deer on the run can leap obstacles 8 feet high. And when closely pursued, deer zig and zag and circle at full speed. They do tumble and fall, and they get stuck in the mud sometimes and bogged down in snow. Many deer are caught and killed by predators. Humans, coyotes, wolves, and mountain lions hunt and eat deer. Domestic dogs sometimes even kill deer. With all the dangers they face, deer continue to thrive and multiply and have even adapted to suburban and some urban areas. Any little patch of field and wood can be home to a deer. All right, so now we do know all about deer. Have any of you ever seen a deer in the wild before? All right, our next book that we're going to read is called Fawn at Woodland Way. And this is about a normal day in the life of a fawn. And I want you to look for some of the behaviors that we learned about in our first book, All About Deer. And see if you can figure out why the deer, or why the fawn and its mother do some of the things it does during the day. All right, here we go. Early on a summer morning, a flock of chickadees sings in the oak tree behind the red house on Woodland Way. One little bird flies down to the lilac bush beneath the kitchen window. But just as he lands, the branch begins swaying. A baby deer is tugging hard at one of the lilac leaves. The bird loses his footing and flutters away. The deer pulls harder. Finally, the leaf comes off and she holds it in her mouth, as if she does not know what to do next. She is a little fawn, still wearing her white spots and too young to be wandering around on her own. Fawn hears an unfamiliar sound at the window above and cocks one ear back, listening. She lifts her big brown eyes toward the window and studies it for a few seconds. Then she lowers her head and, with part of the first leaf still in her mouth, she begins pulling at another. Suddenly, she hears a loud snort from the edge of the woods just behind the yard. We know what that snort means, don't we? Danger. She looks towards the sound. A big deer appears out of the shadow of the trees, and Fawn freezes in place. It is her mother, following the scent trail to her restless baby who has strayed from her side. Fawn knows the snort is a signal that danger might be near. She must stay very still. Mother walks across the misty grass toward Fawn, her ears turning in all directions, listening for the slightest sound of danger. As she is about to lead Fawn away, Mother notices the lilac bush. She stops for a moment and nips off a stem and a few leaves for herself. Then the back door creaks and a small gray cat slips out. Mother bounds off into the woods. Her white tail stands straight up in alarm, a beacon for Fawn to follow, just like in our other book. They take cover in the dim and dappled light of the woods, away from the unknown dangers of the house. As the summer sun rises a little higher in the sky, Mother and Fawn make their daily trip to a secluded pond nearby. On their way, Mother pauses to peer into the backyard, but she will not let Fawn leave the shadow of the woods. She knows Fawn would be easily seen in the bright light of day. The tasty lilac bush will have to wait. When they reach the pond, Mother wades up to her belly. She takes a long drink of water and munches on the water lilies. Fawn, still a little shy of the water, wades gingerly and sips. As soon as she's had her drink, she steps onto the bank and nibbles on the weeds and long grasses. In a stand of maple trees, a flock of crows soon soon begins making a nervous ruckus. Mother sniffs the air and listens. She moves close to Fawn. Then she lifts her dainty forefoot and stomps the ground nervously. Fawn stomps her foot just the way her mother has done, telling her she understands the signal. It is time to watch for danger. The deep grass rustles near Fawn. The white-tipped tail of the red fox flashes above the grass. Mother spots the movement. She raises her own white tail in alarm and bounds away. The fox looks up, distracted from stalking a little vole. Bravely following Mother's lead, Fawn leaps over every boulder and fallen tree in their path. The fox watches Fawn, but she is much too fast for him. When Mother and Fawn are a short distance from the fox, Mother stops and listens again. All is well. Panting in the midday heat, they take a well-worn path to the top of a wooded hill. In the cool shade of the bushes there, they rest and hide until early evening. As the sun begins to go down, Mother and Fawn rise and stretch. They follow their own tracks back to the yard where the lilac bush grows. Mother hesitates at the edge of the woods. Her ears swing back and forth, alert. Finally, she leads Fawn into the open yard toward the lilac bush. But before they can get close, she is startled by voices and laughter. She bolts away, her white tail flashing, her fawn close behind. Together they run deep into the night woods to browse on leaves and twigs, far from human eyes. The next morning, as soon as the sun comes up, Mother and Fawn step cautiously out of the woods again and into the backyard of the red house on Woodland Way. The chickadees are singing their morning song, and the dew shines on the tender lilac leaves. Mother and Fawn stride silently through the misty grass. The end. All right, I hope you all enjoyed that book, Fawn at Woodland Way. Now it's time to meet our live deer. All right, so we're here at the deer pen at Walter B. Jacobs Memorial Nature Park. We are home to one captive deer. This is a white-tailed deer, and he's about 8.5 years old. He's lived here since he was a fawn, cared for by the park staff. He's with us because once a deer is in rehabilitation, or meaning getting help from humans, here in the state of Louisiana, they're not releasable. And so luckily, Walter Jacobs was able to give this deer a place to live. So you are welcome to come out and meet the deer anytime during park hours. You can always access the deer pen. Hope you come out and see us.